Sarah, is a huge sense of history today, and I feel like people are starting to feel it.
They really are. The 6th of May 2023 is going to be a date that goes down in the history books. But for King Charles, it is the day that he has been waiting for his whole life. This is his destiny, to be crowned king here in Westminster Abbey. And after that very long apprenticeship, it is a day that he is ready for. But in order to get to this point, he has had to see the death of his mother. And I think she will very much be present with him today in Westminster Abbey. As you say, we're seeing the atmosphere building. Maybe a little slow burn here in London over the last week or so, but the crowd's out. I was walking here at 5 o'clock this morning. People are already gathering to line the route and take part in this moment in history.
Yeah, we can see some of these pictures emerging now. So this is coming to us live from, well, not very far from where we are now, everyone getting ready for this march. But like you said, we were walking towards this live point this morning, and I was quite relieved for King Charles, because there had been perhaps a fear that not many people would turn out, given he's not as popular.
They're all coming through the underground station. It's very British, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, look, people are camping out. They have been camping out for days, 3, 4, 5 deep. I wonder if the king will be relieved about that, given that point that people thought, well, he's not as popular as the late Queen was.
Well, I mean, there's a couple of things going on here. He is a man in his 70s. He cannot hope to share the same popularity as his mother, who for most of us was the only monarch we had ever known. But the crowds have come out. The other issue was, of course, the weather. Yesterday it was torrential rain here, and just after the big storms in London, the King went out to greet some of those people who have been camping out on the Mall, some of them for many, many days, even more than a week for some of the most hardcore of royal admirers. And he and the Prince and Princess of Wales went to say thank you for being here. Yeah,
a couple of nice moments there too, and we'll talk a little bit more about Charles a little later on. I do want to ask you about some changes in the ceremony, though. There has been a tweak of a controversial issue this week.
Yes, responding to public feedback, I think you might say. So there was a lot of controversy earlier this week about the oath of allegiance, that the Archbishop of Canterbury was going to call on people to pledge their allegiance to the King. There was a lot of pushback about that, and people saying, why should we do this? We don't want to do this. We certainly don't want to be compelled to do it. Some tensions perhaps between the Archbishop of Canterbury's office, Lambeth Palace, and Buckingham Palace, but now we have a change in wording in the order of service, and rather than compelling people or calling on people, the Archbishop of Canterbury will invite them to support the King. So a softening of those words.
And not to overshadow, no one's going to overshadow the King today, but when it comes to the guest list, of course, there has been a bit of build-up when it comes to his son, Prince Harry.
Yes.
He's here now. I don't believe there's a shot of him just yet, but he arrived last night.
We believe he arrived last night on a commercial flight into Heathrow, and he's going to be heading back to America later on today. It really is a flying visit. Yes. I think the royal family, Buckingham Palace, the institution, want this day to be about King Charles. They don't want this to be overshadowed by the family politics and the dramas that have caused so much difficulty over recent months. And so if they get their way, Harry will make his way into the Abbey. He will take his seat alongside other members of his family.
I read that he was a few rows back.
Well, he's not going to be right up there with his brother. Of course, he doesn't have any kind of formal role in the proceedings other than to be here to support his father. I think he's likely to be sitting with his cousins, Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie. And I think if Buckingham Palace have their way, we will not be seeing any shots of Harry looking over wistfully at his family and wondering what might have been.
Or anything like that. Okay, what about the balcony appearance? Do we count on that when it comes to Harry or not?
I think we can count on him not being on the balcony.
He's really been sidelined.
Yeah, the way it's described, and as was done for the Platinum Jubilee, is it is working members of the royal family. So that gets them round the tricky issues of Prince Harry, but also Prince Andrew, neither of whom will be there on the balcony. And it also allows Charles to present his vision of the more slimmed down monarchy.
So I'm always curious about this, because I've covered a few of these events as you have in the past. When the guests start arriving, they'll be arriving soonish, hours before the ceremony is due to begin. Do people just get on their phones? What do they do in there for the hours leading up to it?
Small talk with their neighbours who they'd find themselves next to. I think there'll be a lot of excitement. There's an awful lot to see. Some fantastic footage was released by Buckingham Palace overnight of what it looks like inside.
Yeah, well, I think
Westminster
we saw some of
Abbey.
those a little earlier.
Some
yeah,
of the flowers, the trees, the branches that are inside there. There'll be an awful lot to take in, but you're right, it is going to be a long wait. They'll be in there several hours. I hope they haven't had too much coffee.
Yeah, they want to be careful about
this morning.
I did read about Queen Elizabeth's coronation, nearly 70 years ago, and she had to be very careful about how much she drank in that morning and how much she ate, because she didn't want to have to go to the bathroom. Then it was a 3-hour ceremony. Today, just 2 hours. But anyway, there you go. Sarah, appreciate that. Thank you. You're going to be coming back a little bit later on.